Good afternoon, Greenville, North Carolina. How are you? So I do bring you greetings, very warm greetings from your sister city of Greenville, South Carolina. And what an honor it is to be here with you for this wonderful occasion, this celebratory occasion, and this opportunity for us together to go on this journey where we really dig deep to find out all the significance of economic inclusion and the great opportunities that economic inclusion has for our communities. And so I'm truly honored for this invitation. I must tell you that listening to the speakers who've come before me so far, Nika, you have quite a following of fans, and I know why, because my encounter with you has also been very pleasant. So let's give her a round of applause. I do feel honored for the invitation, and I'll tell you that anytime I'm given the opportunity to have a voice around the topic of economic inclusion, I always feel this real strong sense of responsibility. So I share that with you because I am committed to leaving you with something of substantive today that we all can chew on and grow and learn and be able to apply to our individual respective roles in the organizations in which we serve. So I take this topic very personal, and that will come out. I am one of the fortunate individuals that's able to work in this space that I really have passion for. And I'm just fortunate enough that I get paid to do this line of work, but I have incredible passion for my minority and women businesses, and I work very tirelessly to help make sure that those who I have the opportunity to impact are getting the best access to key opportunities so that they can grow and thrive and compete effectively in the marketplace. And I think that's really important. I also must share with you, though, that I am not a very surface diversity and inclusion practitioner. I really believe in being strategic and getting to the crux of the matter. And so if you will allow me the liberty today to be fully transparent and vulnerable in some regards, I would really appreciate that safe environment that we all can create together. I believe that's the best way to learn, to move forward. So early in my career as a D&I practitioner, one of my mentors, who's also in the discipline of D&I, she shared with me that the longevity of a D&I practitioner officer is typically maybe around about 5 years. And at that mark, usually the person will transition, and whether it's willfully or not, they will transition. And the reason for that is because if the D&I officer is being effective in doing his or her role, then he or she has most likely created opportunities where multiple times they have challenged the status quo, but in doing so, sometimes it makes people feel very uncomfortable. And so I share that because in the end, my goal today is to make sure that we stay with this very celebratory spirit, but I have grown as a D&I practitioner comfortable with making people feel just a little uncomfortable for the sake of growth and opportunity. And so if you will allow me that today, I promise that by the end we'll all be smiling, okay? Okay, so it's not easy work. It's actually incredibly hard work, but it's very important. So I have this belief, and I'm sure that probably many of you here share this belief with me as well, but I truly believe that economics drives everything that happens within a community. And so if we can address the challenges related to the economics, then I think that we can create very prosperous communities. So I believe that's where it starts. So with that, today I want to speak with you about 3 significant principles that must be exercised to fully embrace and effectively execute the work of economic inclusion. And I'll start with my first principle. And the first principle is the principle of intentionality. Intentionality is absolutely my favorite word in the vocabulary. I think there's only one way to do the work of economic inclusion, and that's with a heart of tenacity, a spirit of conviction, a source of clarity, and most importantly, with intentionality. This is what intentionality means. It's simply doing things with intention or purpose. It has a certain look and feel about it. So when you're being intentional, I like to call it my mojo, because it has a certain feel about it. It's not just busy work, but it's strategic work. It's something that's done with intention or purpose because you believe in the end result. And in order to fully leverage intentionality, one must believe that the purpose can be fulfilled and that it has a benefit. So, here's the harsh reality. Many minority women-owned businesses are faced with several obstacles. Here are some of those obstacles. They lack access to capital in many regards. They have a lack of skilled and educated employers in the communities in which they operate in some regards, so it makes it hard for them to fill roles within their organizations. They may have limited capacity to confidently take on sizable contracts. These are real challenges. Women and minority business owners also often face lack of personal and professional networks that are so important for providing guidance. And that makes it difficult in making connections with other businesses in order to collaborate or to team and to grow and thrive. And then there's the misconception that ethnic and minority-owned businesses sometimes are not at the same level of quality as competing businesses. Now, I don't believe any of these items to be true at all. In fact, again, I'm a very big supporter of minority and women-owned businesses, but I know that part of the disparity that exists right now is because those barriers are very real for some people. So, to sum it up, these issues are real, and they make the state of women and minority business vulnerable. This vulnerability, I believe, requires a heightened level of intentionality in order to combat all of these aforementioned challenges. So that we reveal the purpose and the benefit, we must practice intentionality. So I want to look at those benefits for a second now. I want to shift it slightly. Minority business in America account for $1 trillion in gross receipts and support almost 6 million jobs. That is a significant source of economic growth in America. And yet, the average minority-owned firm is still much smaller and has a lower payroll than other businesses. And quite frankly, sometimes they have a lower chance of success. I know that in Greenville County, we have approximately 5,700 minority businesses. And each of those businesses, on average, they employ 2.5 employees. What that says to us is very telling, because it says that those businesses are not growing and thriving at the rate in which they should be, because if they were, they would have more than 2.5 on average out of 5,700. I don't believe in shaming as a means to get others to do things, because I simply think that it's not productive. Rather, I think it's a much better scenario where we can influence people by being knowledgeable on the benefits, that they get on board when they know the benefits. And they get on board because of and not in spite of. And there is a difference. So let me say this. The responsibility rests with all of us. With the minority business owner, the woman business owner, the corporate community, and yes, the general citizens of this community as well. Every one of us, we have a part. So speaking of intentionality, allow me to be vulnerable with you for just a moment to share with you the Greenville Chamber story and our journey into the space of economic inclusion and diversity. The Greenville Chamber has not always operated very effectively in the space of diversity and inclusion, and not because we have not wanted to, but as a 501c6 nonprofit business organization, we operate incredibly lean. And Scott, you guys probably operate incredibly lean as well. And when you operate incredibly lean, what tends to happen is that you will identify someone within your staff that have primary responsibilities, but then you may ask them to layer on some additional responsibilities. And in the case of the history of the Greenville Chamber, that's what happened. We had a staff person that was responsible for something different. But because we knew there was such a great need in our community to support minority and women-owned businesses, that individual was also asked to give attention to minority business growth and development. And so this individual did. It did it to the best of her ability for quite some time. And while there were some great milestones achieved and some successes, the reality is that it created this unintended consequence where we had a lot of starting and stopping, starting and stopping, starting and stopping. And when you start and stop so many different times, you send the unintended message that perhaps the organization is not very authentic. Perhaps the organization is not very sincere. And then after years of the starting and stopping, we finally became very irrelevant to the minority business community. They didn't see us as an organization that was really effectively trying to serve the needs of the minority business community. So we had to take a really hard look at ourselves. We were fortunate to have great corporate citizens and business leaders who found it part of their responsibility and obligation to help change that cycle. And then the question came, what does success look like exactly? What is the model that we should be following? What does that look like? And so we ended up doing a benchmark study where we went all across the United States and we just talked with several different economic development entities, several different chambers to find out what is it that makes your organization successful in the space of diversity and inclusion. And there were two main things that came out of that. The first was that the organization had a person at a senior level that was driving the strategic role of diversity and inclusion, particularly economic inclusion. And that person was at a role to where it was very strategic. And then the second thing that we found was that the organizations that were really successful in moving the needle and helping minority businesses be able to compete effectively is that they were intentional around minority business accelerator type programs. And so that's what we set out to do. Once we had that intelligence, we came back, we presented that information. I will tell you, data is extremely powerful. Knowledge is power. And we presented that information, and so we were able to answer the question, what does success look like, and how do you get there? But we still had the big elephant in the room, and the elephant was, how do we fund it? How do we fund this effort? We were very fortunate to have so many corporate citizens that stepped forward to say, we no longer can sit back and not allow the Greenville Chamber to be effective in the space of diversity and inclusion. And we recognize what the challenge is funding. So we, as corporate citizens, we are going to commit for at least a minimum of 3 years to seek the capital to be able to fund the position and to fund a Minority Business Accelerator program. And that's what we did. This was our city, our county, Greenville Health System, Michelin, and there's so many others. I always hate to start naming, but there were so many others that stepped forward to support this effort. And then they launched out to do a national search, and I was the lucky beneficiary. It was right in their backyard. But we haven't turned back since then. But we had to start someplace, and it was about collaborating with those in our community to make a difference. So let me tell you about the Minority Business Accelerator Program. This is where you take high-potential minority-owned firms and you put them through an ecosystem where they're receiving targeted training, technical assistance. We help connect them with key procurement leaders for contract opportunities. And through that experience, they're building capacity, they're growing, they're thriving, they're creating wealth, they're creating jobs, and they're competing more effectively in the marketplace. And that's exactly what we want to happen. What we found through all of that benchmarking is that we are one of 5 in the country that offers a Minority Business Accelerator program. It's always interesting to me when executives from other chambers across the United States will fly into Greenville, South Carolina, just to sit with us for a day to find out, what are you doing? How did you get there? How do you sustain the effort? What are your metrics? And I love sharing that information because, again, it just allows us to be a resource for other chambers around the work of economic inclusion. So the benefits are many. We track referrals and introductions. We track the full-time employee counts. We track exposure opportunities, RFP, RFQ opportunities, and all of this is directly attributable to those organizations being a part of this accelerator program. And we're having some really good success. So I share all of that to go back to the number 1 principle, which is the principle of exercising intentionality. If you plan for success and you believe that success can occur and that there's a benefit, that is how you're able to move the needle. The second principle I want to share with you is the principle of investing. We all must invest. It's great to be here and see so many different entrepreneurs who are such powerful catalysts for the American economy. So just for a moment, I want to speak to the WBEs and the MBEs that are in the room. I want to share with you that you must continue to invest in yourselves. We believe in you. This community believes in you, and you can tell that by the level of support that's been exercised and demonstrated just this week. The marketplace is extremely competitive, and it's not enough just to know your craft or your trade. You must couple that with critical business acumen to compete effectively. Strong WBEs and MBEs, they own their own strengths and their own flaws. They also own their own flaws. They are bold leaders with strong self-awareness. They know when they should take bold action that requires risk and when something may be out of their element. And that's important. You can't be all big, strong people. Find your niche. And they know this because as a bold business leader, they are intentional to pair action with knowledge. You have to pair action with knowledge. Bold leaders are prone to action. They apply the same sense of action to learning and due diligence as they would to any other activity. Strong WBEs and MBEs are bold leaders who make the most of small wins. I always tell my corporations that if you were to take just a fraction of some of your contracts and give them to a small business, it will really be a game changer for them. That's how important it is. You know how to take those small wins and really leverage them. While many people may sit around and wait for the right opportunity before they're willing to step up and take action, you really celebrate those small wins. And sadly, sometimes the right opportunity may never come. But bold people understand that rarely is any situation perfect from the beginning. They look to make the most of any given set of circumstances that can lead to victory, even a small one. And cumulatively, consistent little wins yield success. So my message to you is keep going. Keep moving forward. Celebrate those small wins. And eventually, I believe they will truly pay off. Use those wins to build momentum. Recognize that a single victory is not enough to sustain leadership. Work to create a series of actions that help the team gather confidence, speed, and power. Have a sense of when to add energy to drive forward and when to let the momentum itself carry things forward efficiently. This is important because there is a need to get more minority entrepreneurs building innovative, high-growth companies. I love the startups, but the ultimate goal is I want these organizations to become very well established, to grow, to be very innovative, and to create some great change for the community. I also want to say to our MBEs and our WBEs to invest in each other. That's extremely critical. We must realize our ability to protect the full turf relates very closely to our ability to support other MBEs and WBEs. Women and minorities accomplishing success has a leverage effect. When one wins, they all win. We can't forget that. There is room for all WBEs and MBEs to be successful. I truly believe that remembering how your life is impacted by the hand of someone else, it makes us all more aware of our responsibility to do the same for someone else. And so if you've made it, if you've reached that status that you're really interested in and you desire, then as you climb, lift back, bring someone up with you. Create partnerships and collaborations. Do business together with each other. Establish mentor-protege relationships. I think mentoring is literally one of the most selfless things a person can do to add tremendous value to another person. So share that. So I'm going to shift now and I want to talk to my community individuals in the audience. These are concerned citizens who are seeking to, in any small way, be a part of the solution to help foster economic inclusion. You are encouraged to make an investment as well. And let me tell you how. Support the MBEs and the WBEs. Refer them. If you've had a good experience, and if you did not have a good experience, be bold enough and responsible enough to share that feedback. If they're missing the mark, they need to know. Otherwise, we are perpetuating a barrier. Be thoughtful about your own spending power. Make those decisions very thoughtfully. Seek to connect with a directory or a resource of WBEs and MBEs, and have those vendors in your consideration set. Now to the corporate community. I'm not going to let you off the hook. Being intentional requires being innovative for corporations as well, of course, which requires work and sweat equity. If you plan and you expect something to be successful, it will be successful because either you have reached that desired outcome or you have learned something of value to improve upon your strategy the next time. Be careful to not get caught up into the tried and true, well, we've tried that before and it didn't work syndrome. We need to leave that behind. That's the easy way out. And let me tell you, there's no easy button for the work of economic inclusion. To my corporate community, I want to show you what intentionality in investing looks like by giving you just a couple of examples from the Greenville, South Carolina market. BMW has a very large presence in our market. The manufacturing center is there in the upstate. And something that they've done for the past 4 or 5 years very successfully is they have invited all of their tier 1, 2, and 3 suppliers to come for a trade show experience. And then they invite every WBE and MBE that they could imaginably be able to have access to. We work very closely with WeBank. They work also very closely with the Carolinas, Virginia Minority Supplier Development Council. And people come from all over for this opportunity. But it provides great connectivity. It provides those MBEs and WBEs the opportunity to share their capabilities. to be able to create relationships that have yielded contract opportunities and growth opportunities. That is being intentional, and it does not come at a very inexpensive cost for BMW at all. Another example is through Greenville Health System. And both of these organizations, by the way, are great partners to the Chamber's Minority Business Accelerator program. But GHS, they do relatively well through their very robust supplier diversity effort. But when it comes to minority contractors, that's where they're really challenged. And they recognize that just because you may be a very good contractor, if you don't know the healthcare business, the healthcare industry, then you're at a big disadvantage. And so they were having a hard time finding minority contractors to be able to do business with. So they ended up developing this 16-week program where the MBE will be selected, and during this time, they are mentored, they're taught how to do business with the healthcare system, and specifically with GHS. And then at the end of those 16 weeks, they are guaranteed a minimum of at least $1 million contract. One of my MBEs just completed that program, and the great results that have come from that experience have really helped to catapult him to the next level as a minority contractor. And here's what's also very intentional about that opportunity. Not only do they offer this and they commit to that minimum of $1 million contract, but they recognize that as small business owners, to take away 16 weeks to devote to a program that's full-time, that's nearly impossible for a lot of organizations to be able to do. So guess what? They pay those MBEs a full-time salary for those 16 weeks. That is intentionality. That is getting it done. That is making a difference and completely fostering the spirit of economic inclusion. So principle number 2, we must invest. WBEs, MBEs must invest in yourselves. The general community, we must care enough and invest and support our MBEs and WBEs. And the corporate community, we must be innovative. We must think beyond just having a supplier diversity role where we're tracking our spend. But what else are we doing to move the needle forward? And the last and final principle that I want to share with you, this is the principle of recognizing the importance of the work of economic inclusion. I know the time, the effort, and the dedication it takes to run and grow a business. I've watched my husband, who's here with me today, for many, many years as a business owner. I actually like to call him my serial entrepreneur husband, because that's exactly what he is. But throughout those years, there were both successes and learning opportunities. I never say failures, because they were learning opportunities. And I want to publicly thank you, Carlo, for your tenacity and for your vision to continue to run that course as an entrepreneur and a business owner. I know that it's not easy, so I see it, and I have such a huge appreciation for that. So to all of the MBEs and the WBEs in the room, you have my admiration and deep appreciation for what you do for your communities and for having that bold spirit. But we need to salute our WBEs and our MBEs and keep telling the story of the significance of economic inclusion and why it matters. So join me in saluting our WBEs and our MBEs. If there's someone next to you, just take a moment to turn to them right now. Just say thank you. I appreciate you. Tell them I believe in you. WBEs and MBEs are effective engines for wealth creation and job creation. We have to believe in them and allow them to feel empowered to keep going, because they're setting an example. There are young people all around that are watching them. There are young girls watching their mother entrepreneurs do a great job and really hold their own. There are young minority youth that are watching minority business owners thrive and excel, and they're saying, I can do that as well, and I aspire to do that. So people who choose to be bold are inspiring, not just because they get big things accomplished, but because they also instigate growth, progress, and movement for themselves and for others around them. The ripple effect of the work around economic inclusion, it must be celebrated because it's important and it is significant. Again, our children are watching. Communities that are intentional in creating opportunities for all members of the business community are more cohesive, they're more vibrant, they're more safe, and they're healthy cities. This in turn builds cities that are attractive to individuals who are looking to find a destination to plant themselves and their families, or organizations who are looking to establish headquarters somewhere. I think that all of our markets could use more corporate headquarters. It creates jobs, it drives up the competition, which is good for the economy, and it builds a more inclusive business community. So you see, the results are far-reaching. It's not just one successful story, but if we are able to foster economic inclusion in a really effective way, there's a ripple effect that we're all going to be able to benefit from. And this is why we must never get weary in telling the story of the importance of economic inclusion. So as I take my seat, I want to remind you to exercise intentionality, believe in the purpose and the benefits of economic inclusion, invest in economic inclusion, never get weary in sharing the importance of economic inclusion and the totality of its importance to our community. I thank you each again. I celebrate all of our businesses that are represented here today and all of the corporations who have saw fit to support these organizations. And I hope that your rest of your week as part of Med Week continues to be very productive for you. And I am so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.